Okay, for the record, we have Mr. Hunter present for the state, both defense counsel and Mr. Sievers. State? Oh, Ms. Ross too, I didn't see you over there. State's ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense is ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I have both sides approach for a moment? Yes, sir, right there. Please be seated. Do you remember your juror ID number, sir? If you don't, that, okay. And we all know who you are by the record. We talked about it before you came out. You're not in any trouble or anything. I just wanted to talk to you a bit because they said you made a comment to one of the bailiffs about another juror maybe not being able to pay attention. And because of that, I just want to ask you how you came to that conclusion. Was he talking to you about the case, or it's just your observations?
It's observations, Your Honor. You know, I sit here.
Yes, sir.
And the other juror, I don't know if you need me to tell you who it is, or?
You don't, sir.
Okay,
we're aware.
So, I just made a little note, if I could read it.
Well, why don't you let me look at it? We'll
Okay,
see.
Thank you. That actually is better, yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, and your handwriting's very good, unlike mine. Okay. So he hasn't talked to you about the case at all?
No, not at all.
Okay,
No.
and it's just your observations then and concerns?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the state?
Nothing from state,
Defense?
nothing from defense, Your Honor.
Can I have both sides approach for a moment? We'll be with you in a second. Stay right there. You ready? Okay. I want to thank you so much, sir, for bringing that to our attention. Of course, we always are monitoring our juries. I'm going to ask that you not talk about anything that we've discussed out here. I'm probably going to talk to that juror because I've heard his hearing aid going off myself, and to make sure that he's heard everything all right. You have any questions for me at this point?
No.
Okay.
I feel better that I brought it up.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate you doing that. All right? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please be seated. Please be seated, sir. How you doing? How you doing, all right?
Fine, sir.
Excellent, excellent. I appreciate your punctuality and your attention during the trial. But I have to ask you a question because I've noticed a few times you've had to adjust your hearing aid, and I hear it reverberating occasionally. I just need to make sure that you've been able to hear everything that's been discussed during the trial.
Yes, sir. I can hear. Sometimes it's not as clear as I would like, but I'm getting everything.
Okay, you haven't missed anything?
No, sir.
Is there anything I can do to help you with that issue at all? Because we have
no, sir, Your Honor.
we have additional hearing devices in the courthouse as well, if you think that might help.
Yes, I am aware of that type of thing, but I'm okay.
Okay. Is there anything else we can do for you to make sure that you're good, or you'll let us know if you're not?
Yes, sir. I will let you know, sir.
Okay. State?
Nothing from state.
Defense?
Again, just, sir, is there anything that we can do to?
Yes, I've got everything that's been said.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a nice day, Your Honor.
Well, we'll see you in a minute. Please be seated. Anything from the state?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
From the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. State's ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense is ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
As long as no one's in the bathroom, bring them on out. Please be seated. I'm going to ask our jurors, have you followed my instructions, not talked about the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or looked up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. Defense, first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense calls Casey Stout.
Sir, you're still under oath from before, and we'll have you take the stand.
Good morning, sir. Can you please state your name again?
Casey Stout?
And, sir, you've previously testified in this matter, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you just refresh our memories? What is that you do?
I'm the digital forensics unit supervisor.
Okay. And did you do a extraction report on Mr. Sievers' cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you have occasion to review a document provided to you from the defense prior to coming in today?
Yes, sir.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir. Exhibit number?
This is going to be exhibit number 2. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's a filtered report where it's just only communications between Wainwright and Mark Sievers.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate copy of the report of communications between Mark Sievers and Curtis Wainwright?
Yes, sir.
When does the report begin? What date?
I'm sorry. January 1st, 2015?
And when does it end?
July 1st, 2015.
And who prepared that report?
I did.
Okay. Did you make, other than isolating the conversation solely between Mr. Wright and Mr. Sievers, did you make any other additions or omissions to that document?
No, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to move what has been previously marked as Defense Exhibit 2 into evidence as Defense 2.
No objection.
We'll show it admitted.
And handing it to the clerk. Tender the witness, Your Honor.
State,
No questions, Your Honor.
is this witness to be released or retained?
Mr. Stout may be released.
State, agreed?
Released, Your Honor. Yes.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go. Next witness.
Next witness, Your Honor, is going to be Detective Lebid. I'm sorry, Lieutenant Lebid.
Sir, you're still under oath from the other day.
Judge, we have an objection, we'd like to approach.
Okay?
Morning, Detective Lebid, or I'm
Morning.
sorry, Lieutenant Lebid. Wanted to ask you, because we didn't have a chance really to talk about this. Initially, you suspected that Angela Wright had some involvement in this case, is that correct?
Objection, leading.
Your Honor, this is a
Overruled.
Initially, you suspected that Angela Wright had some involvement in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what formed the basis for that suspicion?
Prior experience working cases.
Okay. You came to uncover that Miss Wright had a prepaid phone that was activated, is that correct?
Yes.
And that phone was activated on June 28th of 2019 and June 29th of 2019. Is that correct?
No.
No?
Say the date again?
June 28th, I'm sorry, June 28th of 2015, I'm sorry, and June 29th of 2015.
That sounds correct, but I can't tell you exactly because I don't remember seeing the actual report. If you had the report, I could look at it and confirm it for you.
Okay. Did you ever speak to Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Okay. And did you ever ask her about this prepaid phone?
When we became aware of the prepaid phone, that was after I had already spoken to her.
Okay.
So I never had another occasion to which I spoke to her about that prepaid phone.
How did you determine that this particular phone was a prepaid phone?
I don't recall the exact details on that part of the investigation. Like I explained to you on prior testimony as a supervisor, I oversaw a lot of the details, but not minute things.
Well, let me ask you this. Were you able to first ascertain whether she had a regular contract or kind of a, we'll call it an assigned phone number?
Yes.
Okay. And this phone number was different than the phone that she used to contact or correspond with Mr. Wright on June 28th and June 29th of 2015. Is that correct?
I don't recall exactly what number was used, but I do know that when I first spoke to her during my first interview, that she had a phone.
When you first spoke to Mr. Wright, you talked to us earlier about themes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said that life insurance was one theme. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that marital turmoil was another theme. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also indicated that Teresa, I believe your statement was she's going to take the show on the road and up and move away. Do you recall saying that?
It sounds like something I said yes.
Do you know where she was going to move to?
No.
Do you know when she was going to move?
No.
Did it appear that any financial transactions had taken place that would wind down a business or set up a new lease or mortgage in a different place?
Not that I was aware of, no.
Okay. And at the time, were you aware of Mr. Sievers' occupation?
Yes.
He was the office manager of the medical practice, is that correct?
Yes.
He had no other job, is that right?
Other than assisting with raising his two children. That's the only two jobs I was aware of.
Okay. So, is it fair to say then that there was really nothing anchoring Mr. Sievers then to Southwest Florida?
I don't agree with that.
Okay. So you think if Dr. Sievers moved to a different state, that Mr. Sievers would likely stay here?
Objection calls for speculation on the part of the witness.
Overruled.
Can you ask that again, please?
Do you believe that if Dr. Sievers were to move to another state, that Mr. Sievers would stay here?
No, I think he would go with her.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
State.
Lieutenant, you and Lieutenant Downs and the other members of the Lee County Sheriff's Office conducted a full investigation of Angie Wright, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And during your investigation, you found that Angie Wright never came to Florida, right?
Yes.
Never had any reason to see Dr. Sievers dead?
Correct.
Never had any reason whatsoever to be involved in this homicide, isn't that correct?
Correct.
If Angie Wright had been involved in this homicide, had been a co-conspirator, you would have had her arrested too, isn't that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
You would have had her arrested too, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And she wasn't arrested because she wasn't involved, right?
Correct.
And during that discussion, during your previous testimony, when you talked about Miss Wright being a blip, she was talking to potential witnesses in Missouri, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Told them one thing and tried to get them to say something different. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
In fact, it was the witnesses that told you about this. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you wanted her to stop.
Yes.
And did she, in fact, stop trying to walk the witnesses back on their statements?
Yes, she did.
She didn't interfere in your investigation, right?
Correct.
She didn't interfere with your arrest of Curtis Wainwright. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And she hasn't interfered with any more witnesses. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
This other phone that Miss Wright had never came to Florida, did it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And regarding Mr. Sievers, Mr. Sievers still owned a condo in Missouri. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
An escape plan.
Possibly.
Thank you.
So if I understand your testimony, sir, Ms. Wright was tampering with witnesses, is that correct?
That's one way to look at it.
And Mr. Hunter asked you about the condo as an escape plan. Is that something, to your knowledge, that he recently purchased?
No.
And in fact, that's a condo that he co-owned with Dr. Teresa Sievers, correct?
I can't remember if her name was also on the mortgage or not.
Nothing further.
State.
Two questions. Mrs. Wright's discussions with those witnesses happened in Missouri. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And if there was a crime of tampering with a witness, it would have been in Missouri, right?
Objection calls for legal conclusion.
Sustained.
And the apartment in Missouri still had Mr. Sievers' personal property in it. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
Release, Your Honor.
State.
It's free to go now.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, we call Lieutenant Michael Downs.
Sir, you're still under oath from the other day.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure. Ready? I'm going to take a brief recess. I'm going to instruct you not to talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved, and we'll be with you momentarily. Please be seated. This is the video that the state stipulated to the authenticity yesterday, correct?
Yeah, the state stipulated that, yes, that if
Not
Taylor
admissibility, just,
Showmaker would call,
not admissibility, just,
that Ms. Showmaker is the person that is in the video and that Lieutenant Downs is the individual who took the video. And counsel indicated that would be the purpose for calling Ms. Showmaker, and to that the state did stipulate, Your Honor, but not to admissibility.
okay. This is exhibit number,
This will be exhibit number 4. I have a 3 right here.
Clear.
We have the sound off. Not too
Oh, turn on the speakers, make sure the speakers are on.
Do you know, how did we come to find these items today?
Second number.
This is Detective Mike Downs, Lee County Sheriff's Office, reference agent case number 15-268513. Time now is currently 6:38 p.m. on Tuesday, August 25th, 2015. Following is going to be the recovery of overalls with the assistance of Miss Taylor Shoemaker. She led us to this position. We're currently on Highway 47 East in Washington County. All right, Ms. Shoemaker, can you just walk me over to where you've identified the overalls that we're looking for today?
Yeah.
Just please don't touch them or pick them up, but if you can point to them, is that the item in question?
Yeah.
Okay, and how do you know, how did we come to find these items today?
Second out the window.
When did you throw them out the window, about? Was it after we came to talk to you?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the reason for throwing these out the window?
I didn't know at the time.
Okay, but you came to learn why, right?
Yes.
Okay, and why is that?
Because he murdered somebody.
Who's he?
Jimmy Rogers.
Okay, and you know Jimmy Rogers personally, obviously, right? You're his girlfriend? Okay, and did he instruct you to throw these out of the window?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Could you guys conclude at 6:39 p.m.?
Put this in front of the witness. So
Pick it up.
Yep, were you able to just view that video, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that a true and accurate representation of how you and Ms. Showmaker came upon the jumpsuit that was found at the side of, I believe it was Highway 47?
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, had that video been altered in any way?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, again, I move to what has been previously marked as Defendant's Exhibit 4 into evidence.
May I inquire?
Yes, ma'am.
Lieutenant Downs, you had already found the jumpsuit with Taylor before you began to record this video, is that correct?
Yes.
And this video was a reenactment of her finding the overalls, is that correct?
I would say it was simply just to document us walking up to the overalls.
But you'd already located the overalls, is that correct?
Yes, they had already been located prior to that.
Thank you. Can I make argument?
Yes, ma'am.
Your argument, this is not done in real time, therefore it is not a spontaneous statement, any of the answers to questions, because they've already had the conversations and they're already now recording what actually occurred in the past. So it is not an exception to hearsay. It does not contradict the testimony of Lieutenant Downs, who said that they went there, that she found them. It does not contradict the testimony of Taylor Showmaker that was received in this courtroom. So it is not impeachment, and therefore there is no exception to introducing a video that is a replay, so to speak, of something that occurred before the video was made, let alone these statements that are in it that are a response to questions. This is pure hearsay.
Again, Your Honor, this is not hearsay. These are spontaneous statements. These are verbal acts. And the video actually shows additional evidence, such as the surrounding. If Your Honor recalls that this was thrown out by a bridge where there was water. There was none of that contained on this video. Accordingly, Your Honor, this video, as short as it is, has additional evidentiary value, and that it further explains the testimony of Ms. Showmaker. And whether it was a reenactment or not a reenactment, Your Honor, it's still helpful to the jury to show that this is how this particular evidence was collected in this case, and this is the environment from which it was collected.
Your Honor, I think that you view this not as a reenactment, but as a recorded interview. The state introduced photographs, 37 A through D, which showed the same topography, and which council is speaking of. And so in terms of the video providing additional information, it does not. But again, this is an interview that's being recorded. It is not admissible, and there is no other value to this recording because the photographs introduced before provide the same information as we see on the video in terms of topography. And there is nothing that is said in this video that is admissible.
Okay. How many witnesses do you have after Lieutenant Downs?
Your Honor, I'm going to call Ms. Van Was. I'm going to call Mr. Curtis Wayne Wright. I plan to then call Dr. Petritis. Unfortunately, Myra Simmons is not available until tomorrow. And additionally, Your Honor, I would like to call Monica Lyons. I anticipate calling Ms. Lyons this afternoon. I think her testimony is going to be a little more lengthy than we can get into in a morning.
Are there any other issues with evidence that you're going to try to introduce that you and the state have gone over and there's objections to?
Your Honor, I anticipate with this witness, well, I don't anticipate, I'm going to enter the plea agreement waiver of rights. Mr. Downs was present for this this plea agreement waiver of rights. Other than that, for Ms. Van Was, I'm going to enter what is I believe it's Exhibit 18 is the shredded document. I have a photocopy of all of the documents in sequence, not just the front, and I believe that the entire document, which again is going to be, they've already waived any objection or opened the door by entering in the actual document. I'm simply showing what are the pages behind that first page. I don't believe in its current state the jury could open up the shredded document and look at it. Those are the only other ones that I anticipate that the state might object to.
I'll start at the end and work forward.
Okay.
Do you have copies of the photographs that you intend to introduce through Kim Van Was?
This is why I told you guys to get together about this yesterday.
These.
Tell you what, we're gonna take like a 10-minute recess. I'm gonna let both sides talk, and then we'll talk about the issues that you may or may not have. If they're stipulated to, or there's not gonna be an objection, of course, we don't need to address it, and if so, we might as well do it now while we have the jury out.
Very well, Your Honor.
So you can either step down if you'd like, or stay where you're at.
Thank you, Your
We'll be
Honor.
in recess for like 10 minutes.